Hansel and Gretel. There lived a poor woodcutter in a little cabin in the woods with his 2 children. The children, named Hansel and Gretel, were living with their stepmother because their mother passed away. The stepmother was mean to them and always complaining to her husband all the time. When the famine started in that area, the woodcutter couldn't even afford a single bread to feed his family anymore. "Wife, there's no food left for us at home. We can't take care of the kids anymore, so leave them in the woods." She tried to convince her husband, saying, maybe someone richer than us would find them and give them a home. The woodcutter didn't know what to do. He started to deep thinking, not knowing what to do. Hearing his stepmother talking, Hansel tried to comfort his sister Gretel. "Don't worry, sister," he said. "If they leave us in the woods, we'll find our way home." Hansel left the house without being seen and collected white pebbles and hid them in his pocket, then went to bed. In the morning, the woodcutter took the kids to the woods. As they went deep into the forest, Hansel began to drop the tiny white pebbles in his pocket to the ground as they went. When finally they got a little further, the woodcutter made up an excuse to leave his children. "You guys wait for me here. I left my rope at home," he said, and went away. The weather got darker. It was night, but their father didn't come back. Gretel started crying. Hansel was terrified too, but he tried not to show it, so he comforted his sister. "Don't cry. Trust me. Even if my father doesn't come back, I'll take you back home. I promise." Fortunately, there was a full moon that night. White pebbles, shining in the moonlight, showed the children their way home. They entered the house through the half-open window without waking up their parents. They were very cold and tired, but being home again, they slept happily in their beds. The next day, their stepmother was furious when she saw them at home. She went into the bedroom in anger and started arguing with her husband. The woodcutter was ashamed of his incompetence. The stepmother kept the kids locked up all day and gave them just a sip of water and some bread. Husband and wife argued all night long. In the morning, the woodcutter took the kids back to the woods. But Hansel didn't eat the bread he was given, and as he walked through the woods, he dropped the breadcrumbs one by one to mark their road. But unfortunately, the birds living in the forest ate all the crumbs in no time. The woodcutter again found an excuse and left his 2 children alone in the woods. "Hansel, don't be afraid." He tried to comfort his sister again, saying we could find the way home again. Hansel and Gretel sat under a big tree, hugging each other to stay warm. In dawn, they wandered through the woods, trying to find the breadcrumbs and searching for the way home. But they didn't find any breadcrumbs. They saw a strange cabin on the hillside of the forest. Hansel, which plucked a piece of plaster from the wall of the hut. "This smells like chocolate," he said. "Yes, and this is cake cream," screamed Gretel as she was taking another bite off the wall. Starving children began to eat delicious food that they took from the wall. In the meantime, an old woman got out of the hut. "Come on in, children," she said. "There's nothing to afraid." Hansel and Gretel kept eating the pieces of the house because they had been hungry since the night before. And they loved this cottage made of chocolate and cake and candy. Then the old lady said to Hansel and Gretel, "Who sent you here? Come and stay with me if you want," she said. "You're safe here." The old woman pretended to be a friend, but she was actually a wicked witch waiting for children. She built a house of candy and cake to keep them in the cabin. The evil witch's sole purpose was to eat Hansel and Gretel. To fulfill her intention, she took 2 kids into her little cabin. There, the kids told her everything about themselves. When the witch listened to their sad story, she showed fake feelings of compassion. Afterwards, the witch set them a table full of delicious food. When the kids ate their food and laid in their bed, they thought they were in heaven. Early in the morning, the old witch woke up before the children. While Hansel and Gretel were asleep, she looked at their red cheeks and mumbled, "These cheeks look tasty." Then she woke Hansel up and locked him in a cage. Then she went up to Gretel. "Get up, you lazy girl. Cook delicious food for your brother, and when he gets fat, I'll eat him." Gretel was scared and started crying, but it was in vain. She had to do what the witch told her to do. "I don't know how to cook," she said while crying. "Cook what you know," the witch said in a hustle. Every morning, the witch goes to the cage and screams, "Hansel, give me your finger so I can see if you are getting fat or not." But each time, Hansel showed a piece of bone through the cage, and the witch, whose eyes don't see well, thought he hadn't gotten fat yet. Days have passed, but Hansel was still thin. The impatient witch decided not to wait any longer, and she said, "Fat or skinny? I'll cook Hansel now." Then to Gretel, "Light the oven. The time has come. I can't wait any longer," she said. When Gretel said, "I think I could not light the oven very well. It isn't too hot," the witch got mad. "Clumsy girl, I'll take care of it by myself," she said. But when she leaned down to see if the oven was hot, Gretel pushed her behind her back and threw her into the oven and quickly closed the oven's cap. And so she saved herself and his brother from the witch's evil intentions. Then Gretel ran to his brother to release him. They came into the old witch's house because there was nothing left to be afraid. They stayed there for a few more days and ate some more from the cake house. They found money and jewelry in her belongings. They both took some food, gold, and money and set out to find their home. Luck was on their side this time. After a long journey, they found their home. They were very happy to find their home. Their father was so happy to see their children. Ever since he left his children in the woods, not a single hour had passed peacefully for him. Father was crying. "Your stepmother got sick and died." He said, "You're with me now. I won't let you go anywhere, my children." Two kids hugged their father tight. They missed each other. Later, Hansel and Gretel showed their father everything they brought from the witch's house. "Daddy, we're rich now," they said. "You'll never cut wood again, and we won't starve." And from that day on, they all lived happily together.